Hey everybody, Chad Lorridge here with Music Max Distribution. We're the US distributors for Fredenstein Professional Audio, and I wanted to take some time running some audio through our artistic series of EQs and compressors, specifically the artistic EQ and the artistic Comp Plus and the artistic leveler. These are really great devices. They don't cost a fortune. They're a really great way to get into 500 series modules at a really high quality and value. So let's talk about the EQ a little bit. So this is the artistic EQ. I actually have 4 EQs here that we're gonna run our drums, our kick and snare through, we're gonna run our bass through, and then also our vocal, all in the context of a full mix. The EQ is a very simplistic EQ in use, but a really powerful and great sounding EQ as well. It's 3-band, so we have a high, mid, and low band. The high and low band can be shelving or bell EQ, which is really nice. It also has a normal and color feature. The color feature is kind of like adding some tube saturation to the tone, and it's input dependent. So the more that you drive it, the more of that harmonic saturation you end up getting. It has a true bypass, so when you use the EQ in and out button for bypass, it actually bypasses the circuitry, so you can really hear what you're dialing in there. And then I also have 2 different compressors here in the artistic series. We've got the artistic Comp Plus, and then we have the artistic leveler as well. The Comp Plus is a FET style compressor. So a little bit more aggressive, a little faster on the attack and release settings, similar to most FET compressors that we like to see out there. And so I've got that on the snare drum today, which I think is gonna work out perfectly. And then I've got 3 levelers. I've got the leveler for the kick drum, the bass, and the vocal. And those are optical compressors. So all of the compressors, both of the Comp Plus and the leveler, have your set threshold adjustment, and then you raise the input to get over that level. And they sound really great. We're gonna check it out today. We'll get some audio running through it. So I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a listen through just a little bit. I'm gonna adjust some overall settings as we go, and I'll kind of explain as I set them, and then we'll solo each of those instruments, have a listen to them individually, and then we'll come back to the full mix and A/B before and after. So here we go. Let's just listen to the full mix together. All right, so we'll go ahead and engage the kick drum here. Again, I've got the artistic leveler, so this is going to be an optical compressor, a little bit more musical, not quite so heavy in aggressiveness. It's a little bit smoother attack and release settings as well. So you have 3 attack settings. You can go kind of fast, medium, slow. We'll go ahead and keep it on a slower setting and then a faster release on our kick. Get a little bit of that tone coming through. The thing I love about both compressors is they have a mix knob. So if we want to maintain some of the transients, we can pull that mix knob back. We'll go ahead and have that with the Bento 8 Pro here, we have the channels linked. So I have it going from the compressor into the EQ. And so just directly in within the module itself, we have the ability to link those together. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit of higher transients, attack. We can boost from 14 dB above to 14 dB below the turnover frequency here. I've got it set to a bell curve on the high end. And maybe we'll add a little bit of 60 hertz as well, just to start on a bell curve as well. All right, moving into our snare drum. Now, this is the Comp Plus, it's a FET compressor. So again, I'm gonna go for a slower attack and a fast release, get some of that snare sizzle out of the release, but then also that nice transient as well. We'll go ahead and go pretty heavy on this snare drum. Take it out of bypass. And then maybe pull the mix knob down and go about 50% on that. There we go, let's pull the output down to balance. All right. Bring the snare drum EQ in, add a little bit of top end. Looking out to the universe, past the edge of what we know. There we go. And let's bring our bass in. Put it all together, all the pieces of cosmic dust. Finally saw the big picture. Same thing on the The leveler, again, it's a little bit more of a musical EQ. Now this is a pretty transient bass player, so I'm gonna go for a faster attack on this. We'll go for the medium attack. Again, a kind of a semi-fast release as well. There's a sidechain input if you want to use that between like your bass and your kick drum. We also have a sidechain filter EQ if we wanted the compressor to not necessarily react quite so much to the lower end. We could have everything below 300 hertz be filtered out, or 150 hertz be filtered out. Again, it's not EQing the actual sound, it's just putting blinders on it so we don't hear that low end information. The compressor sometimes is a little bit more natural and a little less pumpy sounding. All right, and then our vocal will move along here. Go ahead and get that into the circuit.
Looking out to the universe, past the edge of what we know.
There we go.
Saw the heavens and the gods, they weren't quite for what we hold.
So I have a 4-to-1 ratio on the compressor. You can see the amount of gain reduction. Again, it still sounds pretty natural.
Finally saw the big picture.
All right, let's go ahead and solo our vocal here real quick.
Looked a lot like us.
All right, so I'm going pretty aggressive on this vocal right now. We'll hear it flip around here in a little bit to back to the verse. But let's take a look at the EQ for a moment. So I have it in the circuit, but I'm not doing a whole lot yet. So let's go ahead and add a shelving EQ on the top end.
Past the edge of what we know.
And we'll bring this up to around 7 kilohertz.
They weren't quite for what we hold. Put it all together, all the pieces of cosmic dust.
Back that down just a touch.
Saw the big picture.
Nice, bright, airy sound without sounding too aggressive or harsh.
Looked a lot like us.
Maybe we'll add a little body to his vocal here. We'll put it on a bell curve down in the lows. Bring it up to about 250 hertz and add a little bit of... Now I feel like we're getting a little aggressive on the compression, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that mix knob and pull it down to about 50%. Allows you to keep that aggression, get the lower dynamics up higher, blended in with the louder transients without sounding too unnatural and a little bit more transparent. Here's without either one of those. Oh, we got a lot of big difference in volume adjustment here. Now, it doesn't bother me that I'm using both of these devices to add gain because all of these Fredenstein devices use the OPA2 output op amp for really nice, solid, clean output level. So adding volume with these doesn't bother me at all. I actually, on this vocal EQ, I have that tube transistor color adjustment turned on. So it gives us a little bit of that overall harmonic saturation on the vocal, which I really like. Gives a little bit extra tone there. All right, let's go ahead and unsolo that vocal and we'll listen in the context of the mix.
Looked a lot like us. Looked a lot like us.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Looked a lot like us.
Let's go to our snare drum. Okay, let's see what we can get going on here. So I'm going to take this out of the circuit completely, both the compression and the EQ. Yeah, snare drum just sounds like a snare drum. Drummer's not really, doesn't feel like he's really hitting that thing very hard. So let's add in that FET compression, add some aggressiveness. Maybe bring the input up a little bit and we'll bring the ratio down a touch so we get a little less gain reduction. Now I have the mix knob about halfway. Let me bring that all the way back into the circuit. Here's without it. All right. Really feels like he's got some good punch now on that snare. And again, I'd like to pull that back to get some of the original transients from the mix and then bring in some of the sizzle, the vibe, the glue, the color of that snare drum, right? Let's add some EQ and add a little bit of top end again. Bell EQ on the bottom end, and we'll go ahead and add 200 hertz to get a little body to the snare drum. Here's without the compression and the EQ. A little bit of a level adjustment, I know, but we can hear the aggressiveness there on that FET compressor and then that really nice clean EQ. And I'm hitting this thing pretty hard. I really like how I can be aggressive with the compressor. It doesn't necessarily take away anything, any of the vibe of that snare drum. Let's add the kick drum in with that. Okay, pull down the input on the snare drum just to balance a little bit. Okay, so again on the kick drum, I'm going to go for a slower attack so that way I can maintain the transients of the kick. We'll go for a little faster release so that way when it lets go, we can let the body of that kick drum come through. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and engage the sidechain filter EQ at 150 Hertz. So that way it's not reacting quite so heavily to the lowest of the low end on that kick drum. Yeah, there we go, I like that. The mix knob, I could go full engage there and it's pushing too much level into the EQ. I start to get a little bit of clipping, so let's turn the output down. Gain staging, of course, in the analog world is very important to maintain. And we have a nice clip light here on the EQ to be able to see if we're overdriving the level. But there's 24 dBu of headroom on these devices, so I'm really pushing a lot of level through them anyways. All right, let's go for our EQ. Again, you can hear some of that top end. If I go to a shelving EQ, I'll go pretty drastic here. That's on the kick drum, right? All that transients we're bringing out without the EQ. So we can hear that transient being cut through pretty nice. We'll pull it down. I went a little bit too hard. Let's go into the mid-range here and see if there's any junk that we want to Yeah, we'll pull a little bit of that 500 Hertz out of the kick, and then perhaps again add a little bit of low end. Now I'm going to go for a bell EQ. There we go. Oops, I got to watch the gain. Make sure I'm not clipping here. Again, gain staging is real important. Here's without the compression and the EQ on the kick. And I'll put it back in. Yeah, very nice. All right, let's go ahead and listen to the whole mix now.
Saw the heavens and the gods weren't quite for what we hold. Put it all together, all the pieces of cosmic.
Yeah, real solid kick and snare.
Finally saw the big picture.
Really love the vocal. I love the air on the vocal that we're getting out of that EQ. Let's just disengage all the EQs and see what we did here. Bass, of course, volume's a little bit different here, but all right, let's go ahead and put those EQs back in here once it turns around to the verse.
Looking out to the universe, past the edge of what we know. Saw the heavens and the gods.
All right, so in context, maybe we'll pull that high end on the vocal down just a little bit.
Put it all together, all the pieces of cosmic.
Maybe pull the bass back in the mix a little bit more.
Looked a lot like us.
So there you go. So we have a lot of really great features in the artistic EQs and the compressors, the Comp Plus and the Leveler by Fredenstein Professional Audio. I hope you enjoyed this video. We love playing around and getting audio through these great devices. Again, they're a lot of bang for the buck, a really great value, and really high quality audio. So if you're interested in checking out more about the artistic devices or any of the other Fredenstein Professional Audio devices, make sure you get in touch with your Fredenstein dealer. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.